Welcome, everyone, to More to Explore, where Mike and I keep you up to date with everything happening here on explore.org. So, the bear cams are not live yet. So, these are highlights from last year. But Mike will have some exciting news later on at the end of the show. I know the wait is unbearable, just like my bear puns. But I want to know if you got a good bear pun, please leave it in the chat. I will shamelessly use them all summer long. But we got a packed show today, so let's get right to it. If you are new here, my name is Brian Bird, and I'm joined with Explore.org's resident naturalist and the one and only Mike Fitz. Mike, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, and happy to be here, and welcome to everybody around the world who, no matter where you happen to be watching. If you're new to Explore.org, welcome to the community, and of course, welcome back to all of our longtime viewers. We're the world's largest live nature network with about 190 live cameras all over the world. If you have like comments, bear puns, questions for us, drop those in the comments. Like Brian said, I'm also a little curious when everyone thinks the bear cams are going live. If you have a guess, drop those in the comments too. We'll see if we can share some of those along the way. So today, yeah, we're looking at highlights from Brooks River in Katmai National Park. I know most everyone who's tuning in is looking for that announcement. When are the cams going to go live? So we will announce that soon. Brian, do you feel ready for the cams going live?
I am ready. I'm pumped. It's been
Okay.
a long time coming. We got a bunch of cool live events coming up as we do every year, and I'm ready to get going. How about you?
You know what? I'm not quite ready to tell you the truth. It's like summer comes and goes so quickly that every year I'm like, oh wow, it's bear cam season already, and then at the end I'm like, oh wow, bear cam season is done. So I don't quite feel ready, but I'm excited for it. It's fun. We never know what we're going to see on the cameras. During today's program, we'll highlight each bear cam and the bear activity that you'll see throughout the summer and fall season. So kind of consider this like your bear cam 101 for the summer. And then I should also mention that bears aren't our only topic today. We'll share a segment from Round Island where thousands of Pacific walruses can be found in summer. We'll update everyone on the activity that is happening on our bird nest cams. And finally, we'll announce when the cams will be live for the year. So stay tuned. We'll announce that at the end of the program. But Brian, why don't we go ahead and get started with our Bear Cam 101? And I should mention before we get into the nuts and bolts of where the cams are located, that much attention is focused on Katmai National Park in Brooks River, and the attention is well deserved. It's a place of cultural and ecological richness. People have used the river nearly continuously for the last 5,000 years. Nearby volcanoes remind us of the planet's power to foment change. And the area's watersheds are intact and unaltered by human engineering projects. They support some of the Earth's largest wild runs of salmon. And then the habitat is exceptionally rich for brown bears. More than 2,000 brown bears are estimated to live within Katmai every summer, and dozens of them gather at Brooks River to fish for sockeye salmon. So many of us are looking forward to the cams going live. People are guessing June 21. CL Robbins says June 21. Some people say June 19. That's peppermint there. Some people say June 20th or 21st. So you're in the vicinity, everybody, but I don't see the right day quite yet. But we'll let you know in just a little bit. Most bears that fish at Brooks River, they return to the river year after year. We see them grow from small cubs into giant adults, weighing more than 1,200 pounds. And we can get to know them as individuals and see nearly a full spectrum of bear behavior on the cam. So it's real life, it's raw, it's fascinating. But if you're not familiar with Brooks River and its location, let's take you there right now. Let's take a quick fly-in tour. So we are headed to Katmai National Park in Alaska, which is the fourth largest national park in the United States. It's only accessible by plane or boat. And then Brooks River is located in the west central portion of Katmai. The river is about 1.5 miles long, and it flows from Lake Brooks, which you can see at lower left, to Naknek Lake, which is at upper right. Along with our webcam partner, the National Park Service, Explore.org hosts and maintains several webcams at the river. The signal from the bear cams is either transmitted directly to a satellite internet connection or it is relayed to a radio repeater on Dumpling Mountain, which then sends the signal to the small town of King Salmon about 30 miles away. So that's where the cams are. That's how we get the signal to the rest of the world. But let's go through the cams one by one and talk about what we're going to see on each one of these cams. So we're looking at basically like the lower half of Brooks River. The main camera, the most popular camera on Explore.org is the Brooks Falls camera. And that is, and right there, we also have the Falls low camera. These are positioned well to see the bear activity concentrating at Brooks Falls. The Brooks Falls camera itself is going to look at Brooks Falls mostly, but its line of sight also allows us to see downstream. So the area that is highlighted in yellow there is the line of sight for the Brooks Falls camera. Bears gather at Brooks Falls because the waterfall forms a temporary barrier to migrating salmon. Bears use the waterfall's topography to their advantage and catch salmon where they are most vulnerable. You'll see every class of bear here, from the very old to the very young, but access to the best fishing spots is dominated by the biggest and most assertive bears. The Falls Low is an alternative to the main Falls Cam, and it's mounted at about eye level with the bears, with many bears packed into a small space, both on Falls Low and then what we see on Falls High. This is the Brooks Falls really is a place where we get to see a lot of competition and conflict between bears. However, conflict is risky, it's energy intensive. So we'll also witness in the bears many examples of tolerance and cooperation. So getting along with your neighbor is just as important, if not more so, under a lot of circumstances, than whether you have the ability to assert your dominance. So I want people to, when they're watching the Falls cams, to look for all of those qualities in the bears. Downstream, though, about 100 yards, we have the riffles camera. This one looks across the river and then upstream towards the falls. So a little bit of a smaller line of sight compared to Brooks Falls. But this is an area where we get to watch the river's great, where we get to watch bears that maybe aren't competing for space up at Brooks Falls. The riffles area overlooks a relatively shallow section of the river where the water flows over cobbles and boulders. Bears have the instincts to catch salmon, but fishing is a skill that they must learn. And fishing can be quite tough for some bears in the riffles. So this is a challenging place for bears to fish, since there are no significant barriers that hinder a salmon's ability to escape. They can easily swim away from bears in this location. So watch the riffles cam for bears that use a combination of stealth and patience to pounce on unwary salmon. So sometimes they'll park themselves in a spot knowing, hey, the salmon might be vulnerable here, and I'll take advantage of that. They also might just decide, you know what, I'm just going to run through the water and try to chase down fish. So we get to see a variety of behaviors at on the riffles cam. So speed and strength can also be an advantage for bears in the riffles. Farther downstream, however, we have the River Watch camera, and its line of sight is really kind of a panorama that shows us much of the lower Brooks River, where marshes, the flowing water, backwater meanders, and streamside forests create some of the most diverse habitats along the river. So it's a really pretty scene. Dumpling Mountain, Brooks Mountain, as you see there in the background. In this area, the river's gradient is fairly low, and the current is fairly slow. So the water essentially slows down as it approaches Naknek Lake. And this gives salmon an advantage over bears as the fish are migrating upstream early in summer. So if you're a bear, you got to be adaptable to survive. And the lower river is a place where we see bears adapt their fishing strategies. So waiting for salmon to come to you works at the falls, but it usually fails in the lower river. So a bear really can't afford to just sit there and wait for a salmon to swim into its lap. Bears sometimes chase salmon during the early summer salmon migration here, although it's usually an unsuccessful strategy when the salmon are fresh from the ocean. The lower river becomes more lucrative for bears in late summer and fall when they can scavenge dead and dying salmon that have drifted downstream. But that's not our only cam in the lower river area. We have Cat's River View, which in early summer looks out towards the river mouth and Naknek Lake. It's a really pretty scene. This is also a tough place for bears to fish when the salmon are energetic and there's plenty of water for them to avoid bears. The bears face up to the challenge by biding their time or selecting opportunities well. So they'll use similar strategies like what we see on the Riverwatch camera. So on both Riverwatch and Cat's River Views, watch for young bears and family groups also to use this area. They seek this space away from the competition of the very large adult bears at Brooks Falls. So each camera gives us a unique perspective on the river and bear behavior. But one of my favorite cameras at the river is the underwater camera that's attached to the bridge downstream. And last year it was looking downstream from the bridge. This is one of my favorite cameras because of its unique perspective. Adult salmon undergo an amazing transformation once they near their spawning site. Sockeye salmon arrive sleek and silvery blue early in the salmon run, which you can see here. But then we see them morph into red-bodied, green-headed, and hook-jawed looking fish by August and September. These changes signal to other salmon that they are ready to spawn. Pacific salmon don't eat once they enter fresh water, nor do they return to the sea. Some of the salmon in Brooks River might go 3 months without eating before they spawn and die. If any animal in Katmai has the ability to endure hardship, it's definitely the salmon, and we get some insight on that by watching them on the underwater camera. Sockeye salmon are the most conspicuous and abundant fish in the river throughout summer, but rainbow trout are common to see on the underwater camera too. Look for whitefish, which is another type of, it's a salmon, related to salmon, but sort of distantly related. Longnose suckers are in the river as well. We'll sometimes see them hanging out in front of the camera. We get to see diving ducks like mergansers, golden eyes swimming by and diving under the water in front of the camera. We get to see lake trout, the occasional Arctic grayling, and perhaps even a beaver. Of course, the real highlight of this cam is our ability to watch bears swimming by. So check that out from time to time. So in total, the combination of all of the cams at Brooks River give us the chance to watch bears throughout most of the lower half of Brooks River. So our combination of our line of sight, we're really missing just very few spaces, excuse me, on the lower river to watch bears. But there's one more camera that we should talk about, and that is the Dumpling Mountain cam. This is the last cam on our tour. It's another favorite of mine. This cam is perched about 2,200 feet in elevation above sea level, and about it's almost 3 miles straight line distance from Brooks Falls. It offers a truly panoramic view of the surrounding mountains and lakes. So if you want to visit Katmai's Wilderness, then that's the cam for you. Brian, we get to watch the bears on the cams all summer, but is there a season on the cams that you like the most?
I was thinking about this question, and of course, the whole season's great, especially in fall when it's super pretty. But I think if I had to narrow it down, I think it's that mid-July point where you see so many bears congregating. I think you have like up to 30 bears at once, and it's like there can't be that many places in the world where you can witness such a moment like that, where they're all fishing together. But what about you?
Yeah, it's hard to choose. I think September is the prettiest month at the river, although I might go with early summer as my favorite season just because of the bear activity that we see uh and what you mentioned, like the gathering of the bears at the waterfall, all of the behaviors that we see and the bears interacting with one another. That's just so fascinating. And speaking of which, talking about the seasons, maybe we can expect or let's talk about what we can see month by month on the cameras,
Yeah.
starting with June. And again, we're going to announce when the cams are going live at the end of the program here. But let's talk about what we can see when the cams go live soon. So June is a time of anticipation and exploration for bears. Sockeye salmon usually don't arrive in large numbers until the end of the month. So consequently, bears are roaming the landscape and looking for food, or simply staying safe and waiting until the salmon arrive. So competition is in luster in the air as well, since June is also the peak of the bears' mating season. Male bears are moving around their home ranges seeking mating opportunities. So with little or no substantial food to attract bears to Brooks River, you'll likely see a river empty of bears when the cams go live for the year. That won't last. We'll start to see bears moving in and out, and then we'll start to see bears staying once the salmon arrive. But we shouldn't expect to see many bears using the river until really the end of June. July, though, in contrast, is kind of like a whole different game. July is a month of frenzied activity. Bristol Bay sockeye salmon migration peaks in July, and then the sockeye salmon migration continues really to surge through the river throughout most of July. They either reach their spawning grounds or die trying. And then the bears obviously have food on their minds. Bears hibernate in winter, so they can lose about a third of their body weight while in a den. They can also lose a lot of body mass in spring after they emerge from the den and into a landscape where there's little high energy food available. So imagine the hunger that bears feel after going about 8 months without a good meal. With that perspective in mind, it might be easier to understand why bears choose to face the competition and challenge of fishing in an area where there are so many other bears. And since Brooks Falls is a temporary barrier to migrating salmon, bears migrate to the falls to eat their fill. At and near the falls, watch for bears competing for fishing spots and dominance. You'll also see younger bears practicing their craft, learning how to fish, as well as old timers who have nearly perfected their fishing strategies. It's not uncommon to see, like Brian mentioned, like 20 or more bears fishing at the falls in July. So really a special scene there, one of the unique places on Earth. Things change though come August. Historically at Brooks River, the sockeye salmon migration was essentially over by the third or fourth week of July. We're seeing that change during the last 9 years or so, with lots of sockeye still jumping the falls in August. I'm not sure if this represents a long-term shift in the salmon migration or just an aberration, but the trend has continued for long enough now that I suspect it really does represent a shift in the timing of the sockeye migration through Brooks River. So the bear behavior in midsummer differs compared to early summer. By August, the bears have largely settled into their positions in the hierarchy. The mating season is a fading memory, so direct challenges and confrontations for fishing spots are less common. Many bears also disperse away from Brooks River to fish at other locations as the salmon spread throughout the Naknek Lake watershed. So we shouldn't expect to see as many bears at the river in August compared to earlier in summer. But the last, almost 10 years now, we've still seen bears fishing at the falls every day. So midsummer is normally a time of plenty for bears when they seem to be getting fatter day by day. But they're even fatter in late summer. So late summer and early fall are the season of fat for Brooks River's bears. It's what I like to call peak fat. So that's September and October for them. In the streams and lakes around Brooks River, most of the area's salmon runs have played out by this time, so bears begin to migrate back to Brooks River to feed on spawning salmon. In a sense, Brooks River has two fishing seasons for bears. The first comes during that early summer migration period, while the second arrives when the salmon begin to spawn and die in late summer. Perhaps no other river provides bears with the chance to fish for salmon in the same place for, 4 months at a time. For most bears, September and October provide the last chance to eat high-calorie foods until the bears enter hibernation. Remember always that bears are opportunists, and Brooks River provides bears with many opportunities, and they are not likely to waste them. And then finally, just one more thing I want to mention. Throughout the summer, I encourage our bear camp viewers to watch the bears to display their individuality. Just like every dog or cat is different, just like every person is unique, every brown bear is an individual with a personality and life experiences that influence their behavior. Grazer, for example, she isn't Chunk. Chunk isn't 747. 747 isn't 909. For me, it's really like the knowledge of the bears as individuals, our ability to follow their stories and see them make decisions that makes the bear cam experience so special. Brian, my summer will be full of bears, but I also try to make time for other Explorer cams when I have that chance. So if people enjoy the fatness of the bears, they should check out some of the truly blubbery walruses that we can see now.
Yeah, definitely. As we like to say, it's the summer of blubber is upon us. So we got bears, we got belugas, we got orcas, and of course now we have the walruses.
Yeah, that's right. So through a partnership with the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, this camera watches over a Pacific walrus haulout on Round Island, which is located on the north side of Bristol Bay in Southwest Alaska. So relatively speaking, it's not that far from Katmai, but it can almost seem like a world away. There are no walrus currently in Katmai or haulouts on the Pacific side of the park, but in Bristol Bay, there can be many thousands of walrus that seek out these places when the sea ice disappears. So our camps on Round Island are some of the most remote systems that we have on explore.org. They can be challenging to install and maintain. There's as many as 14,000 walruses gather on Round Island in summer when the sea ice disappears in the Bering Sea. So this is a really fun camera to watch, just to get to see walrus lounging, coming out of the water, moving back into the water. It's a challenge and an adventure to get these cameras running. And recently, Explore.org's director of new media, Candice Rush, spoke with our field team, BJ Kirschhofer and Joe Pfeiffer, about their experience when they were on Round Island recently.
Hi, everybody. This is Candice. I am the director of new media here at Explore.org, and I am joined by Joe Pfeiffer and BJ Kirschhofer, who are currently in very remote Alaska on Round Island installing our walrus cameras. Thank you guys for taking some time out of this extraordinarily busy weekend to talk to us about what it is you do.
No problem.
Our pleasure.
So let's get started. What are some things that you guys need to consider before doing an install in someplace as remote as Round Island?
Sure. Well, specifically Round Island, the biggest challenge is logistics of getting not only us out here, but also all the gear and stuff. And it's, especially challenging here because it's very remote. There's little to very little infrastructure to just do general, like everyday things, like, basically just get from point A to point B. Also, there's no FedEx, there's no UPS. So
No hardware store.
no hardware.
Yeah.
So literally you have to figure all of that out as far as basically from Anchorage, how do we get all of our stuff out here? What are the different options? Who has availability? How much does it cost? And trying to stick to some sort of schedule all at the same time. It's all working around weather windows. So it's like your best effort. And so there's, that's the biggest challenge by far. It's just simply the logistics of getting stuff out here and then sticking to a schedule, really.
Yeah. What are your biggest upgrades to the Walrus cameras this year?
Well, last year we came out and kind of evaluated what was here and decided, maybe we would keep the first beach location because it's such a great shot, but we eliminated the main beach because, at least the close-up views, because it was just so logistically difficult, as Joe was describing, to get anything out here. And the system was so big that it was not very maintainable. So we kind of shrunk our footprint and we brought out a new solar panel stand and new batteries, and going to be putting kind of a new camera on. And that will give us still a view of Main Beach, but it'll be kind of the wide shot and also Bristol Bay in the background.
Yeah, I think audience will hear you say things like that original Pacific Walrus Beach close-up view was really logistically difficult. Can you describe the things we were having to do to get that Main Beach shot and explain to them why, perhaps in more detail, that shot was changed?
Well, I mean, the biggest challenge there is the fact that you're literally like rappelling down onto a beach. That's one challenge. The second challenge is you can't do that when the walrus are there. So that means you have to do it in like March or February when it's full on winter happening out here. And then even then you're taking a huge risk of installing it. Then hopefully it still survives the rest of the winter till when the walrus show up. Keeping things powered out there. That was, I'm to my recollection, that camera really only worked really well 1 year, probably the
Yeah.
first year.
Yeah.
So every problem since then was powering that system, getting to the power stand safely. Doing any of that safely really requires a helicopter, and you can't do helicopter work out here when the walrus are here. So, that's why it had to be eliminated, just because it's impossible to do any sort of maintenance on it and fall within the constraints of the preserve itself, of like, not disturbing the wildlife and everything. So, you have to kind of find a balance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we did with we do have the first beach close-up shots, and we have, a greater kind of the grand scheme of Round Island shot
Mm-hmm.
where you see more massive numbers. So I think, yeah, it's safety is also huge because the cliffs are crumbling. It's like
Yeah.
the whole island is eroding in front of our eyes. So from 1 year to the next, the rock anchors that you had in, they could either be gone or they're compromised in some way. The ropes, that you have to use, they need to be swapped out. So just setting up the ability to get to the beach is a whole project in itself.
I think if we want to spend the whole summer at Round Island, it
Yeah.
would be totally possible to bring that camera back. But we got a lot of things to do.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth saying that the staff on Round Island did a lot of work to try to keep that camera online, and they've got other preserve work to do as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Busy.
That kind of moves into my next question. A lot of the Walrus fans were sort of maybe disappointed. They thought that maybe we weren't going to get Walrus cameras this year because the install's been moved a little later. So can you explain why we've moved this install from what used to be an April-May install to early June?
Again, it's purely logistics. Like
Yeah.
the folks that got us out here, it's a Togiak River Lodge. They just got into town a week ago, and they're just now setting up their
Mhm.
lodge, and they're the ones with the boat to get us out here. So it revolves around basically when the town of Togiak is waking up from the winter,
Yeah.
and other logistics are happening in that town. That's what
We can kind of piggyback on some of that stuff.
Yeah. More interesting for the Explore staff, as we've been getting messages from you guys in the field. What has it been like to work alongside all the island foxes this week?
They're pretty cool. I mean, it's almost like having a small dog along with you. They're so tame. It's crazy. You'll just turn around, you'll hear a little noise, and there'll be a fox like 6 feet from you, maybe even closer, sniffing your stuff. We've seen some really cool interactions between foxes. Maybe they're siblings. It's hard to say, but they're playing like dogs would at a dog park, wrestling. Even like those small cues that you see when you see like a dog see another dog and their ears perk up and they get like they're doing the same thing here on the island the foxes are. So it's been pretty fun to have a little bit of canine company.
Yeah, it definitely added a fun component to this.
Is it like this every year, or is this a particularly fox heavy year?
Last year I feel like we only saw one fox when we were here, just right outside of the shed. But this year, I mean, they literally you'll hike the whole way to the other side of the island, turn around, and there's two foxes following you. Oh, okay.
Now, if only we could train the foxes to help install the cameras.
Yeah.
They're a lot of fun, and they're very cute.
So last question, and this is really what a lot of the fans want to know. We're recording this on Sunday, June 8th. What is coming up for you guys in the next week?
Well, so our plan is to get off of this island tomorrow morning, early morning, which is kind of 50-50 at this point, depending on the winds and depending on if the boat can make it out here to get us. And then we have a flight waiting for us in Togiak to get us over to King Salmon. Then we're doing brown bears starting basically tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon is when we hit the ground in King Salmon, and we'll start just doing our thing where we'll probably first go take a shower, maybe do some laundry, and then but then we'll get our batteries situated and get the sling loads ready, and then we'll start figuring out how to get out to Brooks, which is way easier than getting out to Round Island. But yeah, brown bears is will be our life here in
Hopefully,
24 hours. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's what the audience is asking us basically every day while you're out there.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope you have a safe trip back to the mainland and a safe flight over to Katmai.
Sure
Thank
thing.
you.
Thanks. I just appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks again to Candace, Joe, and BJ for helping us learn more about the installation process for the walrus cams. The walrus cams are live now, so you can check them out on explore.org. Sometimes there are a few walruses on the cams because the colony might be out on long distance foraging trips, or maybe the tide's not right for them to relax on the shore. Other times you'll tune in and the entire beach appears to be covered in walruses. Brian, I should ask, is this a live shot right now, or is this a highlight?
This is a highlight.
Okay. Yeah, so it's cool to see them, and I love seeing also how they can sleep in basically any position. They can sleep on top of each other. They sleep draped over jagged rocks. I mean, they just don't seem to care. So it's one of those things like, hey, you just need to relax and see some animals relaxing at the same time. Tune into the walrus cam. So much is happening on explore.org that it's difficult even for me to keep track of. And we're heading towards the conclusion of our program today. And I know I promised everybody with some big news at the end. We'll get to that soon. But we do have some bird announcements to share in between then and now. Because, Brian, we have a new camera that's coming soon on explore.org that I'm excited for.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. So here's just a quick sneak peek for the new macaw cam.
So this is going to have 2 cams at this location in partnership with the Macaw Recovery Network, which is a nonprofit organization in Costa Rica dedicated to the conservation of endangered macaws. And I've read there's a good chance of seeing howler monkeys on these cams too, or at least hearing them. So I'm looking forward to that. But speaking of birds, Brian, some of our other very popular cameras on explore.org are our nest cams, and it's been a busy time in many of the nests. So welcome to the June 16, 2025 edition of Egg Watch on explore.org. We're welcoming new birds to the world, as well as watching young fledgling birds take flight for the first time. Starting with osprey, we didn't have any osprey chicks during our last program, but now we have 6 to watch on the cameras. So the Charlo ospreys, they have 3 chicks on that there. They hatched between June 8th and June 11th. And thanks to the Owl Research Institute for partnering with us at that cam. And then on the East Coast in the Chesapeake Bay in Kent Island, Maryland, Tom and Audrey, they have 3 chicks in their nest. So congratulations to them. Those chicks hatched between June 9 and June 12. And thanks to the Chesapeake Conservancy for helping us with that camera. Farther north on the East Coast, we didn't have a puffling last time we talked, but we said it's probably hatching soon, and it has arrived. So this puffling arrived overnight, hatched from its egg on June 10. So really cute birds. Willie and Millie are the parents in the puffer burrow on Seal Island. And thanks to the Seabird Institute with the Audubon Society for partnering with us there. We also have a black guillemot nest that has 2 eggs in it. The guillemot started incubating there, I think, around June 8 or 9 or so. So check that out as well. Speaking of going back to the mid-continent of North America or Western United States, in Montana, we were looking at 2 owl nests there, great-eared owls and long-eared owls. They have both left the nest for good. So the great-eared owls and long-eared owls, they don't stay in the nest until they're fully feathered. They're always really ready to go. So these birds in the great-eared owl nest, they left in early June. So congratulations to them. And then long-eared owls, also, it was hard for me to really tell how many owlets were in this nest because they were moving around so much. They were often hidden from one another and from my line of sight, but there were 4 owlets total. All of them branched, all of them left the nest. So congratulations to those parents as well. And again, thanks to the Owl Research Institute for partnering with us on those owl cams. It's been busy with our bald eagles as well. The Trempealeau eaglet TE3 is still in the nest, and I think we can expect to see a fledge coming up in the next couple of weeks or so. So TE3 looking really big, looking ready to fly very soon. So if you want to take a bird, maybe take the very first flight of its life, check out that nest. This is one to watch over the next couple of weeks. And then the Fraser Point nest in California with Andor and Cruz, the parents there. Both of the eaglets have left the nest, although they've kind of done it a bit awkwardly. They haven't taken a graceful flight, but kind of fluttered down to the ground. But they're doing well. It's kind of normal for birds at this nest to do that. So they fledged on first one, Blue fledged on June 12, and Kaimana fledged on June 14. And thanks to the Institute for Wildlife Studies for partnering with us on that camera. But heading back to the Mississippi River region of the United States, peregrine falcons, Great Spirit Bluff in Minnesota have 3 IASs there, and we're on fledge watch for them right now. So they're starting to investigate the top of the nest box, the ledges around the nest box itself. So they are moving around, and they're ready to take their first flight very, very soon. The same thing with the Castle Rock falcons, which is located in Wisconsin. We're on fledge watch for them right now. So I think one of the IASs there just is exploring the ledges nearby. So we can expect, I think, to see these birds take their very first real flight over maybe the next week or so. And thanks to the Raptor Resource Project for partnering with us on these cameras there. And then back to the East Coast, Chesapeake peregrine falcons, they successfully fledged their 2 chicks at that nest. And we haven't seen them at the nest in a long, long while. So I think they're out there probably doing well on their own. But occasionally we'll see Barb and Bo show up back at their nesting site in downtown Baltimore, Maryland. But congratulations to them for another successful nesting season. Wading birds, we still have some of those to watch. Great blue herons, 2 heron chicks in the nest. And I think they're going to fledge in the next couple of weeks as well. So maybe late June, watch for these birds to take their first hopping flights away from the nest. And then down in Florida, spoonbill and alligator cam, we're not watching a specific nest there, but just tons of different wading birds to see. So this is a really fun one to check out from time to time. And then let's go across the Atlantic to Africa, because we do have 2 bird nests, so to speak, that we're watching. The African black eagles, also known as the Varus eagles, they hatched at least 1 chick on June 15. I think that's the first time we've got a glimpse of it. There could be a second egg in that nest that is going to hatch soon. We can't quite see into the nest bowl, but we know that there's at least 1 chick in the nest. And these birds stay in the nest for a long time, 84 to 99 days on average. And then the young remain dependent on the parents for an additional like 3 to 4 months afterwards. So lots of time to watch that chick grow and develop, thanks to the Salati Wilderness Foundation and Africam for bringing this camera to us. And then the Stony Point penguins has been one of my favorites over the last couple of months. The chicks are getting really big. They're getting a bit exploratory, heading out of their little nest cavity there. So they hatched in late April, and I think we can expect them to fledge in early to mid-July. So we still have a few weeks for them. And thanks to Africam and BirdLife South Africa for partnering with us for the Stony Point penguins. So we're following these and other nests in the coming weeks. Be sure to go to explore.org anytime to watch the devotion of these birds to their eggs and their offspring.
All right, Mike. Fantastic. But I think as we're coming up to the end of our show, we usually talk about all the live events coming up. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, or the bear in the room, I guess we should say. Mike, when are the bear cams going to go live?
Well, Brian, we had a ton of different guesses. I think everyone was guessing like different dates going up maybe towards almost July. Rolling Trouble wrote in and said June 12. Uncle Wonderful wrote in and said Rolling Trouble said June 16. Uncle Wonderful agreed with that and said today Mike waves his magic wand. I wish I did have a magic wand or a magic bucket hat or something like that where I could just say poof, abracadabra, and the cams go live. Grizz907 wrote June 17. Wyoming Gal 7200 wrote June 17 as well. Sandra Bowles wrote in June 18. Kathy 97, June 20. Intersection, June 23. Ripple, Tina Charles, and Walkstrong we're also June 23, and Walkstrong June 25. Sorry, I couldn't there was too many comments. I couldn't read them all. Brian, I was trying to speak and read at the same time, and I can't do both of those things. Thanks to everybody who wrote in. It's been really great to see all of your comments, just tons and tons of comments on there. Of that list that I just gave everybody, though, there was only one person who got it right. There's probably others that I missed in your comments. I apologize if I missed them. But Sandra Bowles, you did guess right. It is June 18 this year. So that's when our cameras are going live. June 18 at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Alaska time is when our cams are going to go live. And then we have our Welcome to Bear Cam live chat right before then. So that'll take place on the Brooks live chat channel, or you can also find it directly on YouTube as well. So I'll be joined by Sarah Bruce and Ashley Monaco from Katmai National Park, as well as Naomi Boak from the Katmai Conservancy. So we're going to have a countdown on the Brooks Falls page starting very soon. You can chat there with everybody, rejoin your friends, your Bear Camp friends for the summer, talk about how excited you are for the season. And yeah, we're going live on June 18 at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I hope you're ready.
Awesome. I know I'm ready. So thank you all for joining us today, and be sure to check out the countdown that's going to go live here in just a few minutes. And until then, happy exploring.